Hi.
How's it going, everybody?
What a day to be alive.
It is indeed.
I'm getting sleepy.
I know. I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
This is Historia. Da, 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 da.
Oh, I didn't say that last time.
No, we didn't, but that's okay. I'm sure they figured it out.
It's in the title.
Exactly. Oh, yes. Coming at you with another legend today.
Oh, yes, it's still the month of Halloween. It is getting to the end.
Halloween's tomorrow.
Yep.
Wow. Dang.
Goes by so fast.
It does. Wow.
This month has gone by so fast.
It has. October's been so crazy. We're laughing because we're recording this in early October. So we were only on October 3rd right now.
Yay!
It's fine.
Is it really only October 3rd?
Yeah.
I thought it was like the 5th already.
No. It's
Yikes.
the 3rd.
I'm not good with dates.
Yeah, anyway, I hope Halloween week is treating you guys you well. Halloween.
Gotta watch that Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am still trying to make James watch it.
He's never seen it?
Well, there was a commercial that was like a whole, like one of those. It was like a commercial for Hocus Pocus, but it was kind of like one of those, like, you know, the medicine commercials that are like super cheesy and whatnot?
Yeah.
Like, Protozone will do this to you.
Yeah.
Like, they were pretty much doing that, but like for Hocus Pocus, talking about like a virgin will light the candle too. And he was just like, what the fuck does that have to do with a cat?
Oh my god, he's gotta watch it.
Oh my god, I was like,
You
dude.
got a lot to learn, buddy.
I made him watch My Bloody Valentine with
Nice.
Jensen Ackles.
Yeah.
Freaking love that man. He just ages well, so well.
Yep.
I gotta give him that. But yeah, James was so upset because it's a slasher film. It has no plot to it, and the plot that is there is just like there's so many plot holes to it.
Love
so
it.
he was getting so frustrated. He was like, why is there so much blood and gore already? I was like, because that's what it was meant to be.
Right.
People aren't there for the storyline, like for thrillers.
Yeah.
They go there to see the blood.
I watched the first Fear Street.
Oh, what did
I
you
really
think?
liked it. I was like intrigued immediately, so.
You gotta get through the next two.
I know. I watched it yesterday, so I need to watch the other two.
Yeah, make Basil watch it with you tonight.
He doesn't like scary things.
Oh my god, it's Halloween. It's the one time that he
I
can
know.
do it. But yeah, Fear Street. I really liked it. I can't believe was it a book by R.L. Stein? Because I know it was by him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit. Which one did you like best? Like, don't spoil anything, but just tell me which one is the best one.
The second, because the first one is about in the 80s.
90s.
Second one is in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then the last one is in the 1600s.
I feel like I'm gonna like the 70s one the best.
That one is because it's like a camp one, so it makes you give that Friday the 13th feel. But the last one is really good because it takes you way back and it gives you plot of like everything.
The 1600s?
Yeah.
Oh. I guess I'm dyslexic. I read it as 1966.
No, it's
I'm dyslexic. It's
1666.
Okay, well, I'm not dyslexic, but I read it wrong. But that's okay because I was like, why would they make one in the 70s and then the 60s? But now that it's in the 1600s, I get it.
Yeah, because it deals with.
That should be interesting.
Oh
man,
yeah,
I'm gonna watch the second one tonight.
It's so good. I think you'll really like it, and it has like that slasher, but there's also a plot to it.
Nice.
Which is really nice. I was really sad with the first one, though. Everyone should go watch it. It's a good Halloween
so good.
movie. I need to watch The Bly Manors.
The ending, I was like, what? The what? The blind?
Bly Manor. It's on Netflix, too. All of those I need to watch.
Haunting in Hill House, that was like my favorite.
I need to watch that one, too.
I love that show.
I am determined, though, this year to watch all of the Harry Potters.
Good luck.
I would not. There's like 8 of them.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot. One of my coworkers, because our job is kind of boring, that she has watched she's watching all of the Harry Potters on her phone as we're like doing our work. And she's like, last I heard she was on the 3rd one.
Oh, nice.
And one of my other coworkers she loves Harry Potter, so she was explaining everything to us. She's like, the books are so much better because they add so much. And I was like, that's what they do. It's
That's
like
the point of a book, yeah.
Honestly, Twilight should have been a TV show.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to the books, even though I couldn't get through the last, 30 pages of New Moon because they were just talking on a plane, and I was like, I can't get through this.
The ending was rough.
Yeah, but...
That one was my favorite, though.
Yeah.
I love New Moon.
Dude, that... Edward, though, gets better, though, by freaking the first Breaking Dawn. They all get a makeover in Breaking Dawn. I gotta admit. I
watched Twilight yesterday as I was researching. Spoiler alert. And I'm going to watch the rest of them this month because why not?
Oh, yeah, they're all on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
Go watch them.
I would just, some of the scenes I used to think were so iconic, like the baseball scene. It's so cheesy, but like they jump in the air and run into each other and there's lightning that strikes. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my god. This movie.
Your birthday party in 2009 or 2010, we went and saw New Moon. That was we had to go see it because you were obsessed with Twilight and New Moon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were obsessed with the other ones. I kind of lost interest
I was obsessed with every single one.
Okay.
I went to the midnight premiere of, because I think New Moon came out on my birthday. So I think that was the first night it was out, or the second night, something like that.
It was something like that. There was a bunch of us.
I saw the 2 Breaking Dawns on the day they came out.
I lost interest after New Moon. I had that that was just how I was with everything, is that I started having that really craze, teenager, young tween obsession with all of these movies, and then I would lose interest. I even had a Twilight bag.
I did that a lot with shows, TV shows.
But that's just how it is sometimes.
I had one of my favorite things. I had because I was Team Jacob.
Oh my god.
Because he's hot, literally. That was my reason. But so I had a t-shirt that was just completely oversized.
Yeah.
It was a men's size 2XL.
Oh my god.
And I was 10 years old. And it was just a picture of Jacob shirtless. My mom gave it to me for my birthday.
Dude, why were you Team Jacob? He's mean.
Because at that point in my life, all I cared about was who was attractive.
So hot.
I didn't care who they were, actually.
But...
And I don't think Edward's hot, so...
The relationship any of them had with one another was completely toxic.
Oh, absolutely.
If you look at it now. But I'm Team Emmett.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I love Emmett. Oh my god, I didn't know. So, I was talking to... This is off track, but it will come back around. I got my login from my sister for HBO Max.
Yeah.
And what I like about You is on there.
Really?
Yeah. The Amanda Bynes and Jenny Garth. Jenny Garth was on 90210, the old OG.
Yeah.
She was married to Carlisle in real life.
Really?
Yeah. They have 3 kids together.
Oh. Wow.
I was just what the fuck? I was he's a human outside of Twilight?
I know, I'm wait, he exists?
Yeah, and he has dark... He looks so much better with dark hair. That platinum blonde did him nothing.
I'm not surprised. Blonde.
It just made him really blonde.
I always loved Alice, too. She's just so cute.
Yeah, she was...
Her little hair.
She was 25 in the first movie.
They all look pretty old, but I think that's the point, I guess.
I think the youngest were Jacob and Bella. I think they were 16 or 17.
Probably Anna Kendrick as well. I think she was pretty young.
She's older. She's in her mid-30s.
Yeah, but at that time she was at least in her 20s.
Yeah.
I read her book and she was talking about how she got that job and she was at first she was oh god, I'm about to do this, but then it helped her name get out. So.
Oh, it sure did. She's in a lot of films now. She's huge.
But yeah, man, I loved those movies.
On the topic of Twilight, who are we covering today?
We're covering vampires.
Ooh. Dracula. Nosferatu.
So fun.
The Hashling Slasher.
Put on your spooky pants.
Yes! Or me, leggings and a wolf shirt. I guess I am Team Jacob.
I guess so. I guess I'll be Team Edward today. I'm Team Edward for the books. Team Jacob for the movie. That's what I always said.
Edward, just Robert Pattinson though. He's a quality guy. He doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah. Just him as Batman, though, I'm like,
We'll see.
We'll see. All right, guys. So I'm going to be talking about vampires. Are we jumping in? Is it time?
Yes.
To begin.
Jump on in.
Our story here. Dun, 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 dun.
Ooh.
I feel like this one isn't as spooky as last week's because people know what vampires are. You know. But anyway. Okay, so. Vampires. What are they? Good question. Vampires are known to drink human blood. Delicious.
Ew.
And they usually use their sharp fangs. Beautiful. Bless you. Oh my god. And what they do is they kill the humans, use their sharp fangs. They usually go for the neck. It's a good part. And then they'll bite you.
Wow.
That was my sound effect.
So you can't survive them?
Huh?
You can't survive them?
You can't or you can? What are you saying?
You can't survive them? Cannot?
I was like, I don't know what word you're saying.
Sorry. I guess that's just my accent.
You can or you can't, yeah. It depends.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, they'll use their sharp fangs and they kill people usually. And then they'll turn into a vampire. So they usually die first.
So they suck the blood.
Yeah.
What's the change of them becoming vampire? Like, do they have to, like, hold it long? Or if they just want to get the blood and not turn them into a vampire, do they just do a little love bite? Or
They just need a little bit of blood. They don't need a lot.
Oh.
So, like, literally once you get bit, it doesn't take very long. But then the human usually dies, and then they become a vampire. So you're technically dying.
Every time?
Yeah, because you're turning into something else.
Then there should be a lot more vampires.
I know. Now, I'm talking about the legend first, and then I'll talk about modern day vampires.
Oh God.
Because this is very different than modern day vampires.
Sparkles.
So, yeah, so we'll get there. But in the legend, yes. You would die, and then you become a vampire.
That means more than half the population should be vampires, if that's the case.
That's a legend.
The fuck?
They hunt at night because the sunlight weakens their powers, which I always thought was so funny. Like, they're like, I'm vicious, I'm scary, and then they see the sun and they're like, oh!
What? Why is...
Get away from me!
There's so many plot holes in vampires!
They just like the darkness. I think it's because they like to hide, and I don't know why their skin cannot handle.
So they're
light.
Irish white.
I guess so. They sparkle in the sun.
Oh God. I would rather have that because that's normal now.
Right.
They're just like, oh wow, they're wearing a lot of highlighter.
Man, that contour on Flake.
On Flake.
People still say that? Probably not. But anyway, if they are in the sun, it just weakens their powers. And I think it's just because they're less mysterious.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. And so they're known to be sleeping in their coffins. They're known to be coming out at night. And they usually take the form, or they can morph into a bat or a wolf.
A wolf?
Yeah. Back in the early legends, they could morph into a wolf. So, yeah, it's kind of fascinating. That's not really what you hear about. You hear more so about the vampire bat. Somehow I took a screenshot of my phone.
What the fuck? That's scary. We got a vampire up in here.
I don't know what just happened. Anyway. But yeah. So yeah, they can morph into a bat or a wolf, and they have super strength. So just like in Twilight, they can lift things up, they can push things away. They are strong.
We're probably going to use Twilight as our
main thing. Well, here's the thing. I learned so much from Twilight as I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, none of that's part of the legend. Like, the eye color things. Twilight created that.
It's all like sexualized.
I know, and I was like, I thought the eye color thing was part of the legend. Like, how their eyes change colors. No, I looked it up, and it was like, Twilight, Twilight, Twilight. And I was like, are you joking?
So they just have normal eye colors.
Yeah, I mean, their eyes will turn red. But, like, in Twilight, they're like, if I'm hungry, my eyes will be yellow, or whatever it is. And, like, they have reasons for why their eyes are a certain color.
Oh.
And so, like, if they just turn into a vampire, then their eyes are red. Like, it's that kind of thing. In the legend, it's more so, like, your eyes are red if you're hungry.
Okay, so, like, when you're not hungry,
normal.
You can blend in.
Right. So, you'll know, like, a vampire's there if you see their eyes glowing.
How did no one know in Twilight that they were vampires? They don't have normal eye color. They're very pale. They have every symptom of being a vampire.
They were like, they're just weird. And then they're like, they just look like they're in pain. And then, like, you can tell that they can hear you from far away.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's casual. Like, they, like, say, like, when they're first, like, introducing all of them, they, like, mention something about Edward, and he, like, smiles. I'd be like, oh my god, he heard you. You know what I mean? Like,
I would lose my shit.
Yeah. So, they're pretty crazy. But anyway. Yeah, so it started as, like, when the legends first began, it was more spooky and scary.
Yeah.
And, like, oh my god, like, don't get bit by a vampire. They're terrifying. It could be in the form of a bat, you know. Their eyes are red, they'll glow, they'll come to you. But then it became more, like, sensualized, like, sexualized, which is just, like, it's weird how that happened. But, usually it's, like, you'll hear a lot about, like, a love story where they're like, oh my god, you're a vampire? Bite me. You know, like, it's kind of turned more into that.
Yeah.
And so they usually, like, they'll have super strength, and they usually just, like, can give that victim, like, some type of, like, sensual, emotion. Just because of, like, the charm that they had. But in the beginning, they didn't really have that. It was just kind of as the legends, began, or as they kept going.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because they wanted to add more to it. And so that it became more, like, sensualized.
Wow.
Yeah. But they're also very hypnotic. Anyway.
Hypnotic.
If they try to look at themselves in the mirror, they cannot see themselves.
Dude, that sucks. How do you do your makeup?
I know, I'd be like, do I look good? How's my hair? And they don't cast any shadows. So you won't see them coming if they're behind you.
Can you see the reflection in like a window?
You can.
So that's probably how they do their makeup.
Yeah. I don't know if they can see the reflection in the window.
What? How do you look presentable?
I guess they would have to, because it's not a mirror, so it's not like it's like light. I don't know. I don't freaking know. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk about... Oops, wrong one. There we go. We're going to talk about the first vampire. Now, many people think that this was the story of, like, how Dracula became. They think that that was the beginning, but there's actually something before that. So, we're going into Serbia, and there was a man named... Well, they don't actually know his name for sure, because they've lost it over time. But they think his name was either Peter Blagojevic, or...
Blaževic?
I don't know. Or Peter Blazowicz. Blazowicz. There's a lot of things. So they're like, I don't know which one it could be, but his name's Peter. Okay, so we know his first name's Peter, so that's all that matters. And this was in 1725, sorry. He died and was buried. In the middle of the night, he rose from his grave and killed local villagers.
Ew.
And then once they took the autopsy report on his body, they claimed that he did not smell. And this was, like, over time. He did not have, like, that rotting body smell. So there was no odor, and his body stayed fresh. They also saw fresh blood in his mouth. And so they eventually were able to identify the people that he killed, and then they were able to find, like, marks on them that looked like bite marks. So that's how they kind of put those two and two together.
Could have just had, like, a mental breakdown.
Probably. But anyway, he was dead, quote unquote. They could have buried people alive. Just saying.
What they always do.
Yeah.
The whole bell system.
Right, like, just saying. Anyway, at this time, they identified vampires similarly to witches. So they looked for the birthmarks, they looked for the scars, anything that was marked by the devil. And so that was the same as, like, for witches. So they actually checked his body and they found a mark. And that's also why they were like, he has to be a vampire.
What mark was that?
I think it was just a scar on him, which is like, okay. But they were like, that's from the devil. It has to be. And then from there, vampires became, like, a big story. And then people started making up stories about how, like, or maybe they weren't made up. I don't know. Up to you to decide. But they were just, like, creating stories about how they've seen different vampires and, like, they've been chased by vampires. And so then the story spread and spread and spread. And then we get to Vlad the Impaler.
Oh, hell yes.
And so Bram, I think is his name. Bram? It's not Bram.
No.
Bram Stoker. Yeah. Bram Stoker named Count Dracula after Vlad Dracula. Many think. There's actually some theories that he did not. But, okay. Anyway, I'll talk about that. So, Vlad Dracula, also known as Vlad the Impaler. This all happened in 1897. He was born in Transylvania, Romania.
Transylvania.
Woo! And he ruled Wallachia. I call it these words. Wallachia. Yeah. He ruled Wallachia, Romania, off and on, from 1456 to 1462. And so he was like in his 20s to 30s during that time, because he was born in 1431. And he was just, like, people could trust him. He was chill, but he was also very cruel. So he had this cruel side to him. So he fought off the Ottoman Empire, and he earned his nickname because he killed enemies by impaling them with a wooden stake. So we just go around and be like, Pacha!
Wow.
Into the heart.
Yikes.
Yeah. So Vlad enjoyed going to dinner, and he would bring his dying victims. So they were like almost dead, but not quite dead yet. Some of them were dead. So he would just bring them all to dinner, and he would dip his bread in their blood and then eat it.
Wait. So he, like, cut up these people, like, beat them up, like, whatever. Was like, let's go to dinner. Freaking holds their hand, takes them
Drags
dinner,
them to dinner.
sits them in a chair.
Yep.
They're like, bon appetit.
And then takes his bread and dips it into their blood. And then eats it.
Ew.
Now, this is just legend, of course. There's no actual proof of this. But this is the story that kind of spread on. And so people think that, like, these types of stories were the ones that sparked Stoker's imagination to create Count Dracula.
Yeah.
Who's also from Transylvania. And we know that Count Dracula, he also sucked his victim's blood and could be killed by driving a stake through his heart, which is usually how you would kill a vampire.
I don't know where else he would get that idea from.
Right. So there's this, like, vampire expert. That's literally what her name was.
What?
Like, they were like, this girl, vampire expert. I'm like, oh my god, what a fun job. She was like, no, there's no way that he could have made it about Vlad. I'm like, okay, relax.
Wait, what's her backup?
She didn't have a reason.
What?
She was just like, there's not enough, it's just a coincidence or something. But...
Well, what's your proof for that?
There was, like, no reason. Like, I was like, that's it. So she didn't really have a good reasoning for this, but I guess it's argued a lot in the community.
I bet it is.
The vampire community. Don't get involved in that, friends. Yeah, so... yeah, they call themselves Dracula experts. And, like, they have these types of conversations.
What the fuck?
Yeah, there's a community out there that are really focused on vampires. I did not realize until researching. People are very passionate. So, this story of Vlad just really caused the vampire superstition to just get huge. And it thrived in the Middle Ages. So we had the plague. Love it. Fun times.
Fun.
Taking away entire towns of people. Super fun. And there's actually a lot of relations from vampires to the plague. So the disease, the plague, often left people bleeding through their mouth when they died. And so there was just blood coming out of their mouth right before they died. And so people connected that to vampires.
Of course they did.
There's blood coming out of their mouth. It's a disease, bruh. Anyway. And then they would also, whenever they would bury somebody when they died of the plague, they would start to bury them, and then they would see them coughing up blood. Like, they would come back up, cough up blood, and then go back down.
The fuck?
Yeah. But I'm also like, I feel like that's more of a disease thing than a vampire thing.
Yeah.
Like, they don't just cough up blood. But
No.
I guess they're like, well, they just would have had to eat it.
Yeah.
If they coughed it. Whatever. But yeah, so this bloody mouth syndrome that was kind of going around during the plague, it led people to believe that the undead had been feasting on their neighbor's blood, and that would protect them from dying. So, okay. Anyway. All part of the fun.
That is how science was and how everything was determined.
Right. You just kind of guess.
Back then, yeah.
And then spread the news.
Honestly.
They have to be vampire. Okay, got it.
It's like a game of telephone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it starts off like, I think this is a disease problem. 5 people down. It's a vampire problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, sure. And then before they would bury a deceased victim, the grave diggers started to place a stone on the victim's mouth to prevent any more blood sucking. So at that point, they were just like, we don't want anyone else coughing up blood. We don't want anyone else coming up from their grave, getting out of their corpse to go kill somebody. So they eventually just started putting stones on their mouth. I'm like, okay. So there's a blood disorder called porphyria, and it causes blisters on your skin when exposed to sunlight. So it's kind of like you're not really allergic to sunlight, but kind of.
That was the movie with Bella Thorne.
Oh, God.
She was like, yeah, it was, the dude was good in it. She was not.
I don't like her, so. She's just never impressive with her acting.
But that was pretty much like the whole plot of it. Because I guess it was like a book. It was called Midnight Sun. But she pretty much couldn't go in sunlight because that would give her cancer.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so once this disease, once they started noticing it, I think like it's always been around.
Yeah.
But because they were on this like thought of vampires, they saw people going through this. They made the connection that it might be linked to the legend.
Oh, God.
And so another symptom of porphyria is that it actually is relieved temporarily by ingesting blood. So they actually would give you, like, if you had that disease, if you actually ate, like, let's say you just killed an animal, and you'd get the blood from that animal and you would eat it. So it's not always, like, it's not human blood.
Yeah.
But you would start to feel better by ingesting blood. So that also caused them to link those two together.
So.
Yeah. We've also had connections with, like, rabies. People think that rabies and vampires are connected.
Huh.
And then other diseases that were happening at that time. So any disease that, like, caused you to look different or scar or bleed, they were like, that's a vampire.
Totes vamp.
Totes vamp. I'm such a doctor. That's a vampire. Yeah, so then whenever there was somebody who was suspicious, that was, like, they were like, they're sus, they're a vampire. Whenever they died, people would actually start to search their bodies for signs. So they would go through, before they would bury them, they'd look for signs of being a vampire. And some would actually even put a stake through their heart to make sure they are dead. Because they got to the point where they're like, we don't want to see any of them coming alive, so we're just going to make sure that they're dead real quick.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then they would sometimes even just decapitate or burn the corpses. Which you see a lot in a lot of vampire legends, is like burn their body to make sure that they're completely dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think in Twilight you have to cut their head off and then burn them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that suspicion came from, too, because if you stick a stake through them, they could still survive. And so burning them would actually make sure that they're completely dead.
Yeah.
And that was popular until the 19th century. Okay, so then we had this crazy story of Mercy Brown. She was a real person, and she lived in Exeter, Rhode Island. She's the daughter of George Brown, which was a farmer. George, this one year, just lost a ton of family members all at once, including Mercy, and they all died of tuberculosis.
Oh.
People thought Mercy was suspicious by the way that she just, like, presented herself, and by the way that she, like, kind of stayed hidden from people. Because she's a younger girl and probably just didn't want, like, she was probably just more shy.
Well, she's going through her teen years.
Right. And so they used her as a way to explain the deaths of the family. And so what was going on at this time, it was very popular to blame one family member. Yeah. Like, during tuberculosis, it was like, it's their fault. And that's what they did with Mercy. So they were like, there's something wrong with her. She's the one that caused all of these deaths. And so they would blame several deaths in one family on the undead. So, every family member in Mercy's family, in George's family, they were all searched for signs of vampirism. Mercy's body was examined and didn't display severe decay. So just kind of like what we've been seeing, if they dig them up and they look like their body's fresh, it probably means that they're still alive or they're immortal. And so they had suspicion about that because they looked at the other bodies and they looked more decayed, and they all died around the same time. So they should have all looked the same. But Mercy's was more like fresh looking and it didn't smell. So what they did is they took her body and they placed it in an above ground vault during the winter. And so they were like, if during the winter, like she's still like her body's still fresh, then that will tell us something. But I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because the winter would help keep it fresh.
Yeah, preserve it.
Yeah.
They kind of screwed themselves in that one.
Right. So then they checked after the winter and they were like, still fresh. And then they just kept it going.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm like, that's probably why her body like stayed like that.
But like during the summer though, wouldn't you see some decay?
Right. And so I don't think they pursued it in the summer. Like, I don't think they like really used common sense with that.
Yeah.
Because I think they just eventually were like, she's a vampire. She's gotta be. Which,
she's slowly decaying.
Yeah. And I guess they moved her a little bit before winter, so it wasn't super cold yet.
Yeah.
But I think they, like, meant to check on it all year round and just kind of, like, went to the conclusions quickly. So, the townspeople were all accusing her of being a vampire and making her family sick. They think it's all her fault. And so what they did is they cut out her heart, burned it. This is the part that just... Why? They took her ashes and fed them to her sick brother.
The fuck?
And I could not find the reason why.
I think it was just pure hatred at that point.
Yeah, and then they were like, oh my god, he died after. No shit.
He just ate a person.
Yeah. No shit, he died. So, I don't know if they were just trying to get rid of her ashes and making sure that they're gone by, like, him eating her, but,
I think they gave it to him to see if, because since they blamed her for killing her family,
yeah,
that maybe if her brother ingested her in the afterlife, if that would.
Yeah.
And it still did, because he ate human ashes.
Right, and he died, like,
and
a couple days later.
Sick.
Yeah, he was already sick. Yeah, it's wild.
Their reasoning is so bizarre.
Wild times. I thought it was so funny though. They're like, let's see if her body survives winter. Like, no shit.
That was their thinking though.
Yeah.
Which is just like, it blows your mind now, but it's just like, it had to start from somewhere.
Exactly. So I'm going to talk about some other legends that have to do with vampires that are pretty well known. One of them was Countess Elizabeth Bathory. And this was... she was alive from 1560 to 1614. She lived in Hungary and was accused of vampire behavior. What she did is she went around and bit the flesh of victims and then bathed in their blood as beauty treatment.
I want to cover her one day.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to her.
There's so much to her.
Right.
I know a lot of crime podcasts cover her, but it's still history.
I've heard a ton of
it. It's crazy.
That's why I kind of kept it short, because I was like, we should cover this.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one.
So I'm not going to give you any more information on her. Just know that that's what she did. And then in Egypt, the goddess Sekhmet? Yeah. Sekhmet. I'm saying it right, I think. I don't know.
What?
I think I just added an N. Sekhmet. There we go. The goddess Sekhmet was known for her taste in blood. And if a certain part of the soul called the Ka didn't receive offerings, it left the tomb to drink blood. So that whole thing was going on in Egypt.
So it goes way, way back.
Yeah, and these were like some early legends, like Egypt, and then there was one in China too. And so vampires in China, they had long hooked claws and red eyes.
Oh, God.
And they were known as corpse hoppers. Yeah.
The fuck?
And then we had the legend of the Ikamu, which was a Babylonian myth from 4000 BC. And the Ikamu is a spirit that isn't buried properly. And so it returns to suck life from the living. So they don't bury it correctly, and then it comes back alive. You don't know somebody's an Ikamu unless they come back alive.
Yeah.
So it's just a spirit. And then, so when we had a lot of these legends spreading in Northwest Europe, they actually used stones called dolmens. They placed them over graves, And they were used to prevent the dead from rising or evil spirits from escaping. Because of these stories that were going around. They were like, we gotta stop it. Stones! And then, of course, we get the vampire coffin. And this actually came from grave robbers. They would open a coffin and the corpse would move or sit up, which this is actually a natural reaction that can be caused by decomposition.
Yeah.
So, like, this actually can happen. Like, it's not that crazy. Although it sounds terrifying, it's normal. So it does happen.
Oh.
Yeah. Not a lot, but sometimes when the body's, like, decomposing, it, like... I don't know how it works.
It's like the muscles in your body.
I don't like to think about it, but but it is a natural thing that could happen. And so once they saw that happen, they were like, "Oh shit! Put him in a coffin. Leave him in there." And so this led to the idea that vampires slept in coffins.
Oh,
yeah, because then they couldn't rise up. They had to open it and then rise up.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. Anyway, nowadays, vampires, they are alive. They are out there. People who call them themselves vampires, they do exist, but it's in a different form than what we've seen in legends. It's a lot less scary than what it used to be.
There's a whole episode of South Park where they just make fun of, like, vampires nowadays.
Oh, really?
Like, they kept, like, all the local people in South Park were, like, calling all of the goth kids vampires, and they're like, the fuck? And they're like, we're not gay vampires.
I
was like,
sparkle
oh my
in the
god.
Sun. That's hilarious. Yeah, so normal people, they're just normal people. Like, you could walk by them in the store and have no idea that they're a vampire.
Yeah.
And all they do is they just drink small amounts of blood. And the reason why is because it's kind of a misguided idea that it keeps them healthy. They think that it helps with their own blood. So they think that ingesting a little bit of human blood keeps them healthy.
Oh.
Yeah, so modern day vampires, they keep to themselves. It's not like they're, like, going out there and, like, trying to kill people.
Yeah.
They drink blood of willing donors in private. Mm-hmm. So they're, like, once you donate blood, they are able to retrieve it, but it has to be that somebody gave them permission to drink their blood. So it's not like the creepy legend of, like, hey, I'm gonna suck blood from your neck. Like, it's like, hey, would you want to give me some of your blood? I would still be like, no. But some people are like, yeah, that's fine.
Some people are willing to do that.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they do it in private, so it's not like they're just, like, at the store, like, drinking a water bottle full of blood. Because obviously people would be like, what? So some don't even, like, digest blood at all. Mm-hmm. Like, they aren't for it, but they consider themselves a vampire. And what they do is they just touch somebody and they feed off the energy. And so they still consider themselves a vampire because they need something from another human.
Yeah.
But they don't ingest blood. So at that point, I'm like, I feel like that's something different. But they still consider themselves part of the vampirism.
I feel like you gotta go all in or not at all.
Exactly. Like, I feel like that's for, like, the ones that are like, I guess I'll do it, but I don't want to drink blood. But, like, it'd be cool to call myself a vampire. Why not? But they, like, truly believe that the energy, like, helps them stay healthy. So they, like, get the energy from other people.
Interesting.
Yeah. And if they don't feed regularly, they become agitated and depressed. So sometimes they'll try to be like, okay, I'm done drinking blood. Like, I need to be normal. But then, like, something in their body just, like, causes them to be depressed. I think it's just, like, a mental thing.
Yeah.
Or they feel like they need it in order to feel like they can continue living and surviving. They drink blood so that they don't become agitated.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we also see vampires with, like, the goth look, you know, like, all black, wearing my black cape and, like, going off into the darkness. Only 35% of them are actually goth.
What are the other percentage?
They wear normal clothes.
Oh.
Like, they look completely normal.
They like to wear wolf shorts and
they probably wear like some Birks and Crocs and wolf shirts.
Everything.
Yeah. But only like 35% of the entire vampire population is known to be like goth and like more like of the traditional sense. But they still don't really like, they don't just go up to you and suck your blood. It's still like they need to get the blood from somewhere. Mm-hmm. So that's what's different about it. But they are still into the goth look, some of them.
Oh yeah.
And what's fascinating is that there's actually so many vampires out there that most American cities are home to about 50 people who identify as vampires.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I always thought that they were like located in one specific area.
Yeah.
But they're actually everywhere. So we could have like a vampire living close to us.
That should be an app.
Track a vampire.
Track a vampire.
Or like, I'll pay you, like, you pay me if you want some of my blood. It's a sidekick. But yeah, for the most part though, like anyone who considers themselves or identifies, there we go. Anyone who identifies as a vampire, just lives normal lives. Mm-hmm. And so you would have no idea. They just go to work, they come home, you see them at the store, you see them at a concert, you see them getting gas.
And they're not afraid of sunlight.
They're not afraid of sunlight.
What?
So it went from like, that's the legend side of it. But unless they're like the 35% that are goth and probably pretend to do those things, they're normal people that just like to drink blood.
I wonder what changed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just like the
modernism,
right?
Just modern day,
right?
Much, the change in just belief system, technology.
Yeah, because they're probably like, I don't want to kill somebody.
Yeah, but
like I want blood to keep me healthy. So like I think it's just like the concept of like this doesn't have to be a violent act, which is interesting. Because I always heard that like there's still vampires out there today, but I never knew like how that could happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, but how do they like get their fangs and like...
Do the super old vampires no longer exist? Because they don't age. They're immortal. So
right.
Are they all dead?
That's the thing. We don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know. There could be some out there. But most people actually realize that they are a vampire as a teenager. They feel like the need to drink blood. Like it's a feeling that they get that they can't explain. But they usually know in adolescence that they're going to be a vampire.
Or a serial killer.
Yeah.
There's some serial killers that did end up drinking blood. You have the vampire Dusseldorf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a whole...
That's a whole thing that you gotta listen to on like a crime podcast.
Yeah.
Because that one's gnarly.
I was like, I should cover that, but then I was like, that'd be too much.
It's true crime.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'll just stick to the basics. But yeah, and then, so like, even if they are a vampire and they like ingest blood, they still eat other food as well. So it's not like they like only eat blood. They eat their pastas, they eat their eggs. And... Oh, yeah. So usually, like what I was mentioning, when they get it from their adolescence, the reason why is because if you know, when you like get a cut as a kid,
yeah,
and then you like suck on your blood to like stop it from bleeding.
Yeah.
So what these people were realizing is that when they did that, the blood that they drank actually gave them energy and they felt healed. And so many people realize that like as a kid, when they got like cuts and they like, or like if they bit their lip and they could like taste the blood, they felt like a comfort kind of.
Yeah.
That gave them a sense of like healing immediately from it. And so that's what kind of caused them to be like, oh, I should just keep drinking blood because it seems like it's helping me and that it's healthy and I'll feel better. Yeah. So, you guys might have a neighbor that's a vampire, but it's okay because they shouldn't, suck from your neck, but who knows?
They could be an elder vampire that still does that. We don't know.
That's true. There could be an old one out there.
Or they could be a Twilight vampire.
Yeah. They could be.
Vampires are very interesting. I don't know what to think.
I know. I think like the modern day vampires make more sense. And I think maybe it's always been kind of more like that.
Well, people in the past just love to be... People now just love to be dramatic. Mm-hmm. But, like, at that time, they put religion into it and they put fear.
Right.
So they think of the worst possible thing that can come and they're like, oh my god, these people are killing other people. Mm-hmm. And they're unstoppable.
The last, like, 3 episodes we've done we've realized that. Like,
Yeah.
that they, like, take this idea and just blow it out of proportion.
Yeah.
And they're just, like, panicking.
That's history in a nutshell.
And it makes sense because, like, now, like, that message would spread quickly.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be, like, I feel like we wouldn't be scared of something like that. Because we'd be like, this is what we do to prevent it. And we'd all be on the same page. But, like, thinking about how they communicated back then.
Yeah.
Like, everyone hears different things.
I think we still use, I don't think it's so much as, like, we use a different kind of fear.
Right.
For everything. Their fear, they took to extreme measures to the point of just, like, freaking burning people at the stake and whatnot. And burying people alive for whatever God knows reasons.
Right.
I think now it's like, it's fear in the hatred sense.
That's true, yeah.
We like to go against one another. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't believe in one thing, like,
How dare you?
It's history repeats itself.
It does. It's so funny.
I hate saying it again, but it's so true. And you look at it, and because now that you reflect back to anything that's going on right now, it's out of fear, and people use it against one another.
That's true.
And that's what they do, and then they'll start blaming people.
Yeah, it's like what we've seen with COVID. You know, like...
Yeah.
The different sides and blaming everyone and... Wild.
And social media doesn't help with it.
Oh, no.
Because it used to be the newspaper.
Right.
And now it's the online source that we have at our fingertips. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is. Like, a lot of times, like, I completely think that the history should not repeat itself. We need to teach it. But I've come to realize, especially with my research and just, like, looking at that, just the world in general through, like, a sociological perspective, I don't think we're ever going to learn from anything. I think history will continue to repeat itself. Mm-hmm. Change my mind.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's hard to, like, for everyone to learn something. You know, like, there's always going to be the people that are like, whatever, it's not true.
Yeah, there's going to be people who are still going to be fearful of everything.
Yeah, and I think that's why we can't get to that point, is because we have fear, we have
anger,
complaining, anger, hatred, like... We're not going to get to a point where, like, we can all just
it's a good idea, but you have to look at the perspective of behaviors in society as a whole, and it's just...
Everyone's experiences.
Exactly.
In life, like...
No one's going to have the same beliefs as you.
Yeah.
There might be a few, but it's just the exact same. There's always going to be something else. Mm-hmm. So.
I feel like that's what we learned from this.
Honestly. And
I feel like we explained it.
Anna Kendrick did not like Twilight. Neither did... I don't think anyone who was in Twilight liked being in Twilight.
I mean, they're probably all embarrassed.
But it's such an iconic film. Mm-hmm. Vampires... Oh my gosh.
What happened to Taylor Lautner?
I loved him in The Ridiculous Six. He hasn't really done
That
much.
was like the last thing, right?
I think he was in something else. I can't remember what. But he did like a 180 from his normal character in that movie, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I like when actors do that, when they do something that's out of their, like, I guess their normal acting roles.
Right, their type,
quotations. Yeah. But I like the Legends one. I think we should do them for 'Tis the Seasons.
Heck yeah.
I think it would be fun.
I think so too. December, we're coming at you with more Legends.
November, we got a good list coming for you.
Yeah, we've already planned it out. It's going to be a good month.
We apologize in advance for anybody who's on the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
Because here in the US of A, we are obsessed with America.
Yep.
So we're going to stick to, I'm just going to tell them a little sneak preview of, we're going to be sticking to Old English and Spanish.
Yep.
Because, you know, it's Thanksgiving's around the corner. I know how much you love it, Kylie.
Oh my god, best holiday ever. That's why I'm not participating this year.
Sarcasm. Yeah.
I'm actually not, though. I'm not participating.
I am only there for the food.
I don't like the food. I think we need to...
I still keep trying to make my mom make cheesy potatoes. Those are fire. She only makes them for Christmas. They're so good.
I just think, like, it's dumb. Like... I don't really like traditions, I guess. Yeah. But I'm like, I feel like it'd be fun if the dinner was different every year. Like, I like the idea of, like, everyone coming together.
Yeah.
But, like, why does it always have to be, like, turkey, mashed potatoes? Like,
Well, you don't have to. It depends on, like, who you have.
Yeah.
A lot of people who do tofu, they do Chinese, they do whatever.
I know. That's what I'm trying to convince my family. But, like, I think having grandparents are, like, they want the traditional meal. So
I'm all for that green bean casserole.
Oh, my God. The green bean casserole slaps. I love that.
Good. If you're from the Midwest, like my mother is, my mom's side of the family, they're all from the Midwest. Even part of my dad's side of the family is all Midwest. So they are known for making some hearty casseroles. And my mom's green bean casserole, my lord, it is so good.
Same with my mom's. I love green bean. Like, on Thanksgiving, I'd eat that in, like, a roll. My mom's recently, the past few years, made mac and cheese for me. It was like, yeah, you know it. So that'd be what I ate. Mac and cheese, green bean casserole. I don't even like pie, so.
Yeah.
I don't like pie, so.
I don't either. People look at, I only like pumpkin bread. I don't like pumpkin spice. I don't like pumpkin pie. I only like pumpkin bread.
I like pumpkin and coffee, and that's it. And just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not a pumpkin person.
No.
I like the smell of it, but.
It does smell really good.
I like pumpkin seeds, like baking them.
Ooh.
Delicious.
I love to eat them.
Yeah.
We're getting you ready for Thanksgiving. You're welcome.
Yeah, and I hope you guys have a good Halloween tomorrow. Ooh, spooky, spooky.
Still deciding what I want to be.
Yeah, I have some ideas, but I don't know for sure. So,
where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Historia the Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Historia the Pod 1, and you can send us a Gmail or I guess an email. It doesn't have to be a Gmail, but you can send us an email at historiathepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your suggestions, stories,
comments.
If you just want to say hi, that works too.
Yeah, tell your friends about us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you can share our episodes. You can rate us if you're listening on iTunes. I don't know about the other apps, but I know for sure you can rate on iTunes. So, like, if you want to leave, like, a little rating for us, that would be super helpful.
Yeah. That'll help us grow. But have a fantastic Halloween and early Thanksgiving.
Yes, and if you're listening to this after Halloween, that's fine too. Go leave a comment on what you were for Halloween.
Yes, and what's your favorite horror movie? Because I want to get more to watch.
Yeah, give us some recommendations. Because we'll watch them even in November.
No Sinister. I don't like that one.
That's fair. All right, well.
Have a good one. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.
We will.
Bye.
Goodbye.